Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 14 of What If Naruto Was the Red X. If you guys enjoy this What If, and want to see part 15 of it, comment down below, and let me know. And go ahead and check out other What Ifs in the channel. Before we start, please do support for more awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Dump City, Tartarus HQ. Alright. Gizmo says while looking at the cloth and broken piece of an X shuriken that the girls brought to him. The broken piece of shuriken is all that it appears to be. A broken piece of a pink X shuriken. Gizmo offers with a wave while behind him Starfire floats beside of Raven, Jinx sits on a table, and Blackfire leans back into a wall. As for the cloth, that's a little more complicated. Gizmo then says while looking at the cloth and Blackfire frowns. How's that? It looks normal enough to me. Blackfire states and the bald boy frowned for only a moment. The stuff is made of a special material that will allow the wearer to wander into a variety of temperaments without any kind of ill effect. Basically, a person wearing a suit of this could go from a desert into an icy tundra and never need to change clothes. Gizmo offers an explanation, and Jinx blinks before frowning. Any way of tracing it? The Pinkhead asks, and Gizmo frowns for a moment. Trace the shit. I wanna know how someone would get this kind of shit, and in the amount needed to make a cape and a suit out of it, so I can use it. Gizmo says, causing Starfire to blink then scratch her head. Why would you wish to know that? Isn't the Red X own suit more advanced? The red-haired alien asks then offers and Gizmo sighs for a moment. It is, but this shit is extremely light, extremely thin, and yet offers almost the exact amount of protection as X suit. Personally, I was going to try and upgrade his suit again anyways. I've been working on some. Gizmo starts to say only for Blackfire and Jinx to launch forward and slap their hands to his mouth. Heroes remember. Jinx growls out and Gizmo blinks, then rubs the back of his neck. Regardless of that, can you trace Pink X? Raven asks with her arms crossed, and Gizmo pulls Blackfire and Jinx's hands from his face. Yeah. I took a look at the other things she stole, and I'm seeing a pattern. Gizmo says and brings up a list of the objects stolen by Pink X. Besides all the tech that is obviously for herself, Pinky has been stealing tons of different chemicals from Logan Industries, while randomly hitting tech companies in between, so no one would notice a pattern. Gizmo states flatly while bringing up a long list of chemicals on the screen. What are they for? Starfire questions and Gizmo frowns. X usually needs these chemicals to make that weird ink and paper he uses for his exploding paper bombs, seals, and such. Gizmo states and Jinx's eyes narrow onto the screen dangerously. So only someone with skills or knowledge like Tempest would have any kind of need for those things then, right? Jinx questions with a frown and Gizmo nods his head silently to his pink-haired friend. So it's those Konoha ninja. Raven uses with a frown, Starfire looking to her friend with a confused expression. A group of ninja who tried to capture Naruto and force him to return home with them. She offers flatly, and Starfire blinks then raises a brow in confusion. Why would anyone wish to take Raven's friend who is a boy anywhere against his own will? The red-haired alien girl asks, and Jinx frowns, before reaching up to rub her temples. Because Starfire, he left his home without them letting him. His people want him back regardless of his wishes. X and Naruto both left at the same time, they're friends to an extent, and both are trying to escape from these ninja. Raven explains with a frown and Starfire makes an O with her mouth before her eyes light up. Then that is how the Red X and friend Naruto know one another. She says mostly to herself, and Jinx wonders how someone as supposedly smart as Starfire can be so naive. If you girls are done gossiping, I think I might have a lot on Pinky you might like to exploit. Gizmo says before bringing up a second list of chemicals beside the first one and cross-referencing them. A bright red bar suddenly zeroes in on a specific chemical, and Jinx frowns. So this is the only one Pinky doesn't have? She asks and Gizmo nods his head. Then where do we find it? She then asks, and Gizmo starts to rapidly type on his computer before smirking. Got her. Logan Industries made the bulk of this stuff, but for the last of it, she'll need to hit the Star Labs building at the lower west side. Gizmo states and Jinx smirks to herself, only for Gizmo to frown. I'd say she'd have to wait before she hits the place. Given all of her recent robberies, I'd say a day or two, to let the heat die down would be the best course of action, before going after this stuff. Gizmo then muses to himself and Jinx nods her head with her arms crossed. It's a basic lesson they teach at the Hive. Never hit the same place twice in a row, or multiple places in the same week, without at least waiting for the heat to die down. That way security will be lax, when you hit a place a second time. In Pinky's case she can't hit Star Labs again because of the stuff she took from them. Jinx explains and Raven nods her head slowly, seeing the obvious logic in that idea. Then what should we do? How will we explain to Robin about the Pink X, if we cannot say we have been seeing the Jinx and her own team? Starfire asks with a worried tone and Raven frowns for a moment, before wondering exactly what they should do about that. Let's worry about crossing that particular bridge later. Right now I'd like you all to leave. I do still have other work to do around here thanks to you two wrecking the joint. Ismo states with a frown and Jinx nods her head. She and Blackfire both walking out of the room, while Raven teleports herself and Starfire back to the tower. Geez. Now to get back to my real work. Gizmo says to himself, while pulling up a screen with some upgrades for the Tartarus HQ. Murakami High. The familiar Pincat and blonde girl are walking to lunch, Sakura frowning while Ino is reading a book. The kids of this world have way too much homework. Ino mutters as she and her friend enter the lunchroom and walk over to the line. The two didn't really speak much to one another, and even less when around Hinata, but Ino had no one else she could speak with really well, except one person. Hey Ino, hey Sakura. The said person calls, while cutting in line, to place herself between the Pincat and blonde-haired girls. This girl has long straight blonde hair with a black band holding it back, a pair of azure blue eyes, and tan skin. She has a dancer's physique, due to her practicing ballet, and wears the same uniform as Sakura and Ino. Which is, a blue skirt, white button-down shirt with a black tie, white knee-high socks, and a pair of black Mary Janes. What's going on with you two today? The girl asks, her name, Kid Moth, daughter of the notorious villain Killer Moth. Same shit different day. Ino mutters while glaring at her homework, wishing she knew a jutsu that would set it on fire for not doing itself, as she does Sakura and Kitten get their food, causing Ino to get her own as well. What about you Kitten, anything new with you? Ino asks without looking at the other blonde, while a tired-looking Sakura blearily turns her sleepy eyes to her other blonde friend. Me and Fang broke up again. Kitten offers simply with a shrug as they walk over to a table and Ino shivers at the thought. Good. That big spider for his head was creepy as hell, more so than Shino having them living in his body. Ino mumbles under her breath before shivering violently, and Kitten rolls her eyes in response while the three girls sit down. Yeah. How could you stand to be around that guy? Let alone try to kiss him? Sakura asks with a raised brow and a shudder at the thought of the spider-headed teen, and Kitten frowns before crossing her arms. I'm not freaked out by bugs for one thing, he got me all sorts of nice gifts for another, and lastly, he was a pretty nice guy till we started fighting. Kitten lists off on her fingers, and Ino blinks for a few moments. Strangely, that's less shallow an answer than I expected from you. Ino offers with a raised hand and Kitten snorts before moving her fingers through her blonde hair. I'm not as conceited as everyone makes me out to be, you know. Yes, I'm pretty bitchy at times, but that's usually only cause I want to piss daddy off, or my current boyfriend has royally pissed me off. Kitten replies and Ino raises a brow in confusion. You really have a problem with your dad, don't you? She muses aloud and Kitten's eyes narrow into slits. He's missed my ballet recital, my piano recital, father-daughter day when I was at reform school, my last 2 birthdays. Kitten says with a growl and a snarl on her face as she sees both Ino and Sakura looking to one another, then their blonde-haired friend as she suddenly explodes. All of which the bastard Mothman ripoff missed, because he was plotting world domination. Kitten yells out loudly, before growling and clenching and unclenching her hands. Wow, someone has some serious father issues. Ino whispers to herself lowly, and Sakura nods her head having heard the other blonde. Watching the girl, they see her breath in, then out for a moment, before calming herself down and looking at Sakura. You look like shit, she says bluntly, and Sakura glowers angrily. I would look better, if I could figure out why I'm always so tired lately. She grumbles before yawning, and Kitten rolls her eyes in response. Excuses, excuses. She muses before looking to Ino. No, why Pinky here is so tired? She then asks and Ino shrugs her shoulders with a confused expression. Sakura goes to bed at the same time me and Hinata do back home. Not only that, but we're used to late nights with all this homework. Ino offers before looking at Sakura and seeing her nearly fall asleep while sitting up. Yeah, well, I'd advise against any strenuous activities for a while then. Do yourself some good and sleep for a day. Kitten offers before then taking a bite of whatever government-made slop the lunch lady was serving for that day, and grimaces visibly in response. I'm packing my lunch from now on. Kitten mutters and Ino rolls her eyes, before looking down at what appears to be blue furry food on her own tray. And I think I just lost my appetite. Ino mutters while pushing her tray away, only to yelp as the blue mold suddenly jumps from her plate and starts to eat Kitten's food. I must be really tired, cause I'm seeing blue mold moving and eating Kitten's food. Sakura suddenly says with wide eyes, only for Ino and Kitten to grab, then drag her away from the exact same blue mold that had once dwelled in the Titan's fridge. Later, Jinx is pacing the floor of the Tartarus HQ, cupping her chin with one hand, while the other arm rests behind her back. Do you have to pace the floor? I think you're actually starting to leave a groove. Blackfire says while watching the Pincat continue to pace the floor. Hearing the dark-haired girl's words, Jinx turns to give an annoyed glare at her, while the boys of Tartarus are around the HQ. Mammoth is currently at the fridge, and Seymour is asleep yet again. Listen here, Blackfire. I'm pacing because I've got to figure out some way to tell Tempest that some chick with a costume has basically ripped off his style. Jinx says and Blackfire rolls her eyes in response. The Red X I met would probably find it funny. Blackfire muses and Jinx frowns, crossing her arms and giving the older girl a look. Not only that, but she appears to be the same girl that cheated on him for a pretty boy bastard. Jinx then says and Blackfire blinks, then grimaces after a moment. Okay, so maybe he would be pissed about that. Blackfire muses and then watches as Jinx paces back and forth once more. A second later, however, a doorbell rings and Jinx stops and blinks. We have a doorbell. She wonders while scratching her head and Blackfire shrugs her shoulders. Sighing, the Pincat then walks over to the door and opens it, only to look on with a raised brow at the person standing at the door. It is a girl around her own age with bright blood red hair. Her skin is an average tone with an athletic build and curvy figure. The girl is wearing a green domino mask, a green tank top with a jagged black question mark over her chest and a brown backpack, a slender green belt with a pouch on it around her waist, a pair of tight green pants with a purple pouch on her right thigh. A pair of fingerless bicep-length black gloves with purple stitching at the backs of her fists and purple bands around her wrists, and last is a pair of calf-length black boots. Hi. The girl offers with a wave, smiling brightly and causing Jinx to blink, just noticing a golden, question-mark-shaped cane she has in one hand. I'm the Riddler's daughter. But just call me Dwayla. Dwayla offers with a grin and holds a hand towards Jinx, making Jinx look at her strangely till Billy then pushes past Dwayla, shaking his head with a sigh as he does. She's crazier than a chicken with its head cut off. The boy mutters, while Mammoth stops eating, and grins towards his southern friend. Billy, you're alive. He says and Billy smiles, and gives a wave to his friend, before sitting down on the sofa and sighing to himself. Yeah, Billy's alive. But can someone please explain why we suddenly have the Riddler's daughter here? Jinx asks and Naruto steps into the Tartarus HQ, still garbed in his red X suit. Because I asked her to join the team. Naruto offers with an amused tone and Dwayla nods her head with a smile. Though, she was calling herself the Joker's daughter when I did. The boy then muses, while looking at Dwayla strangely, and she blinks beneath her domino mask, before taking on a confused expression. I did? Really? Dwayla asks and Naruto nods his head silently, Jinx looking at her strangely as Dwayla starts to scratch her head. Are you sure I said that? I could swear that Mom said. Dwayla started to say before Naruto clears his throat, and looks at Jinx with a sheepish expression under his mask. Eh? Dwayla's kind of confused about where she comes from. Last week she said she was Joker's daughter, a couple days ago it was Two-Face's daughter, and today it's the Riddler's daughter. From what we've learned and guessed, she's somewhat delusional and really bipolar. Naruto explains and Jinx looks at Dwayla in both a shocked and disturbed way. So she's really crazy? Jinx asks and Billy snorts. She makes Harley Quinn look sane. He states tiredly and Mammoth instantly stops what he was doing, Seymour suddenly waking up and looking at Billy. Wait, you actually met Harley Quinn? Mammoth asks with a gaping jaw and Billy rolls his eyes under his goggles. Tempest over there busted her out of Arkham. Billy offers and Mammoth and Seymour rush over to Naruto, making the boy raise a brow. Is she as hot as they say? Seymour excitedly asks, and Jinx frowns, while crossing her arms over her chest. Hot as hell. Crazy as fuck. And hit me with a sledgehammer. Naruto replies with a grimace and the Tartarus group all grimace in response. Ouch. Mammoth mutters then looks at Dwayla, the near-forgotten girl, having her head tilted slightly to the side, while still smiling brightly. Hi. I'm Mammoth. The big guy offers, while holding a hand to the girl, and she grins once more. I'm the Riddler's daughter, but call me Dwayla, big guy. Dwayla offers and Seymour looks to Mammoth, and both instantly agree not to piss the girl off. After all, you could never really tell what a crazy was going to do. When she was pissed off, just look at Harley Quinn herself for an example. Alright, Mammoth, why don't you and Seymour go, and show Dwayla around, and introduce her to the other guys. We'll find her a room, when she knows the lay of the land as it were. Naruto offers and Mammoth nods his head, then both her, and Seymour walk off, Dwayla following them with a slight bounce in her step. We are not keeping her around. Jinx states flatly and Naruto frowns. She's genuinely useful. She not only has some interesting acrobatic skills, but her multiple personalities might prove useful. Not only would it be near impossible to guess what she's going to do next, but none of the Titans will be able to get used to her antics before she suddenly changes them. Naruto explains and Jinx frowns for a moment before then looking to Blackfire. It would be nice to have more female company around here. She muses and Naruto can't help a little chuckle. I can imagine. Naruto offers and Jinx frowns towards him. Unless you're trying to make yourself some kind of harem, that is. Jinx then states and Naruto blinks before shuddering. No thanks, Jinx. I already have enough trouble with Card-chan. I don't need any more girls. I'm a flirt, but I'm not crazy. Naruto states and Jinx looks sad for only a moment, before sighing while Blackfire clears her throat. Well, the princess has finally woken up. Naruto muses and Blackfire rolls her eyes, before looking at Naruto and taking a deep breath. I just want to say thanks for the help, and for beating some sense into me. Blackfire offers and Naruto chuckles lightly in his throat. I seem to be really good at doing that. Naruto notes while remembering about a dozen people whom he knocked some sense into back in his world. Now seeing as I'm home, why am I hearing rumors about a pink X? Naruto then asks, while turning to Jinx with a raised brow under his mask, and the pink cat mentally groans, before explaining what they've managed to learn about the girl thus far. Sasuke is sitting in their warehouse hideout, frowning as he glares at Kakashi. Why are you going along with this farce? Sasuke asks while referring to the whole plan revolving around Pink X. Sighing at this, Kakashi wonders for what feels like the millionth time why he ever tried to focus on training this brat, especially seeing as he was just so damn insufferable. Because Sasuke, Naruto seems a tad more arrogant than he was back in Konoha. Not only that, but the easiest way to draw him out is to catch his interest. And the easiest way to catch the interest of an arrogant person is typically to copy them. Hence, the plan. Kakashi explains and Sasuke grunts, before leaning back in his seat, while Kakashi reads his smut. I still say we should just attack someone. That'll lead the dope right to us. Sasuke states and Kakashi groans. Sasuke, we can't do that at risk alerting the Justice League of this world. And quite frankly, I don't fancy going toe-to-toe with a man who can lift mountains with his bare hands. Kakashi states then shivers, the so-called Man of Steel easily scaring the Jonin with his obvious near-godlike powers. I bet a Chidori to the head would take him down. Sasuke muses and Kakashi looks over his book to give the dark-haired Uchiha a blank look. He takes trains apart with his bare hands. He can withstand the pressure up to thousands of feet below sea level. And let's not forget the man has even shown he's able to move faster than light. Sasuke, he could kick my ass faster than I could blink. Kakashi states flatly, seeing as it was true since he was nowhere near as fast as Superman, and as far as he could tell, the mighty Man of Steel would leave even Lear Guy in the dust. At this Sasuke merely grunts while leaning back with a deep scowl on his face, wondering when he's finally going to be able to get back at Naruto for humiliating him. As Sasuke continues to mentally envision killing Naruto in the most painful way possible, Sakura, Hinata, and Ino all walk into the warehouse, Sakura yawning as she then trudges over to a mat and falls onto it. Someone needs to go to bed earlier. Kakashi muses and Ino rolls her eyes. She goes to sleep the same time the rest of us do, sensei. She's just been really tired lately for some reason. Ino offers with a shrug and Sasuke frowns. It's because she's a weak fool. He states then leans back, and Ino has to bite back a retort while Hinata sighs, then walks over to a different mat and sits down. Any sign of our ally? Ino then asks and yelps as someone lands on the ground beside her with a dark chuckle. Who? Me. The girl asks with a synthesized voice that sounds oddly similar to that of Jinx, and Ino frowns towards the costumed girl with obvious annoyance. The girl is dressed in an all-black bodysuit with a jagged pink X over her chest, with strange spinal plates at the back of the suit easily showing she has a very good figure with an athletic build. A simple ash-gray belt is cinched around her waist with a black circle with a pink X on the buckle. A tight black miniskirt is worn over her curved hips, while a pair of familiar Shen gray gloves cover her hands with pink X over the backs of her fists and over her palms. Next is a pair of calf-length black boots with short heels and pink X over the top of each foot, a long tattered gray cloak thrown over her shoulders, and a mask nearly identical to Red X. However, her mask is different in that the eyes of the mask are whiter than Red X, with the black around them forming into lashes. The X on the mask is pink, and that her shoulder-length wild spiky pink hair is flowing from out of the back of the mask. Yes you, Pink X. Ino mumbles with an annoyed frown, and the girl in question chuckles to herself. Did you get what we needed? Ino then asks, and Pink X merely reaches into her belt and pulls out a vial of some sort, before tossing it over to Ino, who curses and lunges to catch the object. I wouldn't be able to get the last thing you wanted until the heat blows over a bit. Pink X then says, and Ino nods her head silently, before walking off as Sasuke glares at their ally heatedly. Why do you need to wait? He demands, and Pink X turns her head, and then rolls her eyes under her mask. You're cute, but really clueless. She muses with her arms crossed, and Sasuke growls towards her. I've hit almost every major corporation in town in the span of a week. This will mean that not only do I have to worry about drawing the Titans' attention, but that the businesses are going to up their security for a while. Until I can safely get you more on your last chemical, I need to lay low. Pink X explains flatly, and Sasuke seethes before leaning back to glare at her. And speaking of this job, where's my pay for getting you that stuff? Pink X then asks with a frown and holds a hand out, Kakashi sighing before reaching into his pants and pulls out an envelope full of money. Here. Kakashi offers, and Pink X moves quickly, taking the envelope then flipping onto a wall, where she then gives a mock salute. Later, she offers while making her way out of the building, and Sasuke growls. Why do we have to pay that annoying bitch? Sasuke demands while a sleeping Sakura turns over in her sleep, and Ino and Hinata both sigh. Because we don't want her telling the cops where we are. Ino explains simply while Neji enters the building, cracking his neck as he does. Hey Neji, any sign of Naruto with that weird goth girl tonight? Ino asks, and Neji opens a single eye before sighing. No? It appears as if Naruto went out of town. I have no idea when he'll be coming back. Neji offers while looking to the sleeping form of Sakura with a frown over his face. Is it just me, or is she sleeping more than Shikamaru? Neji questions with his arms crossed and Ino snorts. That's not possible. Believe me Neji, no one can sleep as much as Nara Shikamaru can. The blonde girl states with a smirk and Hinata giggles slightly despite herself, having met the extremely lazy teen, and easily agreeing with Ino's assumption. Tartarus HQ. So let me see if I'm getting this all straight. Naruto says while pacing before the couch in Tartarus HQ with his mask on the coffee table in front of it. Raven and Jinx sitting on the couch while Blackfire is leaning onto the back of the couch with her chin in her hands. Some chick in a cheap knockoff of my outfit is stealing stuff from around town. Not only that, but it looks like most of it is chemicals needed for chakra conductive materials. Am I getting this right thus far? Naruto asks and Raven slowly nods her head, the blonde boy rubbing his temples in response. So do you think it's Sakura, or what? Jinx asks and Naruto frowns, before cupping his chin and considering what he's heard thus far. First of all, Sakura was more direct than to have a friend turn off the alarms. She also wasn't quite as skilled in theft, since she was trained primarily as a mednin. Add onto that, Sakura would have no idea where to get the material for the suit she used, nor would she notice the laser tripwires, and Naruto knew it wasn't his pink-haired former teammate ex-girlfriend. No? This is more like a basic ninja tactic. Lure out your enemy before attacking or lead him into a trap where you have the advantage. Either that or they really needed more materials. Naruto offers with a frown, then crosses his arms, wondering why the Konoha flunkies thought he'd fall for such an obvious trick. Oh yeah, they were probably underestimating him again. If it's not Sakura, and she's obviously not Jinx, who do you think it could be? Raven asks and Naruto rubs his chin for a moment. It's going to be someone that they can beat, so that narrows it down to someone with minor powers or skills. She wouldn't be too greatly skilled in combat, at least as far as they know. And she'll have to be someone they can get to keep quiet, probably with money, if this thief is greedy enough. Naruto muses, causing Raven and Jinx to sigh in exasperation. Well, that leaves more than half of the city. Jinx offers and Blackfire nods her head in agreement with the pink cat. But obviously pink hair isn't too common among humans and especially this city. That should narrow it down greatly. Blackfire reminds and Naruto frowns slightly, while cupping his chin in thought. True, but they haven't caught her yet, and that means she's smart enough not to let her hair stand out too much in public, or the cops would have already managed to find her by now. Naruto reminds simply while tapping a finger onto his bicep with a slight frown over his lips. Why would the Konohinen need to hire her in the first place? Why not just steal the stuff themselves? Jinx asks the blonde and he snorts. Besides myself, none of them are that good at infiltration and theft type missions. Well, actually Kakashi Baka is, but I highly doubt that he'd want to try and figure out how the security systems around here work. Someone who is already familiar with what she would have to look for is preferable than going in blind in the case of a ninja who doesn't want to be seen. Thus this Pink X is more of a patsy than necessary to them. They're using her to lure me out and get what they need so they won't be seen. Naruto explains offhandedly and Blackfire frowns, Jinx and Raven doing so as well. So, they're going to use her and then stab her in the back? Raven asks with a visible frown, and Naruto rolls his eyes with a slight frown on his own face, arms still crossed over his chest. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, ninja can't be trusted. I'm technically not a ninja anymore, so I don't count. Naruto states then reminds with a smirk, and Raven rolls her eyes in response. Right? But you still fight and act like a ninja. Jinx reminds and Naruto blinks, then waves that off before cupping his chin in thought. Question is, how do we respond to this challenge? Do we seek out Pink X, or do we wait and see what the Konoha flunkies do next? Naruto wonders to himself before starting to pace back and forth once more. You act a lot like Robin when you're serious. Raven suddenly notes and the blonde stops and looks at her with disbelief. You have got to be kidding me. Naruto states and Raven smirks slightly. Actually, I'm not. He worries and paces back and forth whenever one of his enemies is threatening the rest of us. Just like you are now. Raven states and Blackfire nods her head with a smirk, having seen that side of Robin personally. Yikes. Naruto muses to himself with a shudder. Okay, that was a creepy thought. Naruto says to himself, then snaps his fingers. I have something I still need to give to Gizmo. He remembers and then walks over to a bag that he'd left beside the front door, and then takes it off into the Tartarus HQ. Want to follow him? Blackfire asks before making her way after the thief, Raven and Jinx sighing as Raven picks up Naruto's mask, and the two follow after them. Making their way to Gizmo's room, they see Naruto handing the bag to an annoyed and grumbling Gizmo, only for him to gape as he looks inside. So what do you think, Giz? The blonde asks with a grin, and Gizmo looks at him with what appears to be awe on his face. The Jack Batman's tech, Gizmo demands, causing Jinx and Raven to look to one another with wide eyes, as Gizmo then pours the things brought to him out on his work table, showing dozens of batarangs, strange devices, gas bombs, and all manner of other things. Making the tinny terror rub his hands together with a toothy grin. You took the Batman's things. Jinx asks with the same amount of awe as Gizmo, and Naruto smirks while crossing his arms. I actually stole his entire belt as well, but his belt was just a belt with a few secret compartments and such, so I left that to a friend in need. I did take most of the things out of it, however. Naruto offers to the pink-haired girl, and she slowly walks over to the objects and pulls one of the batarangs out, flipping it open and then grinning. This shit is all ours now. Gizmo says evilly, while taking device after device, and looking it over, then starts to tear it apart. I'm going to reverse engineer this shit, and then work what I can into your new suit, Temp. With my tech plus, that of Robin and Batman, your suit will kick more ass than ever. Gizmo says while grinning and moving from device to device happily, Naruto rolling his eyes. Right, Giz? Naruto says, then has a sudden thought. Gizmo, do you know how this Pink X got her suit, or at least how she managed to walk on walls? Given she isn't one of the Konoha flunkies at least. Naruto asks, then offers, and Gizmo stops what he was doing and rolls his eyes. She's using the miniature electromagnet she stole last week to attract herself to the metal in the walls in that place. Duh. He states simply, and Jinx slaps her face as she thinks of that. Great, she used tech in her suit, and I didn't even consider that. Jinx mutters to herself, causing Naruto to frown in thought. Gizmo, what exactly would she be able to do with those magnets and that power converter? Naruto then asks, and Gizmo frowns in thought for a moment. Besides decreasing the power consumption of her suit, not much, well, unless she stole an electromagnetic gyro. Gizmo starts to say, then offers nonchalantly, and Naruto blinks, before raising a brow. And what exactly would that gyro thing do? He asks, and Gizmo frowns. If adjusted correctly, it could project an electromagnetic field around her, deflecting most kinds of projectile weapons and metal away from her instantaneously. Gizmo offers, and Naruto shivers. That could be a real problem, if she got her hands on one of those things. Great, as if we didn't have enough problems. See if you can't find anything else Pinky might target and get back to me, Giz. Naruto orders, then scratches his nose, before grinning at the girls. Until then, I'm heading to bed. Later, guys and gals. Naruto offers while turning and gently taking his helmet from Raven before walking down one of the HQ's halls, whistling a tune to himself. Tempest Jack the Batman himself. Jinx says to herself, and a very confused Blackfire turns to look at Raven. Is this Batman they're all talking about? She asks, and Raven rubs her temples, before letting out a slight sigh. He's also known as the Dark Knight or the Caped Crusader. He's one of the founding members of the Justice League, and the same man that personally trained Robin. Supposedly he's also gone toe-to-toe with Superman, and come out without even a scratch. Raven offers, and Blackfire looks at her with white eyes. That is impressive, for a human at least. Blackfire says, and then turns to look at the gadgets that Naruto had pilfered from the Dark Knight with a bit more scrutiny. As she does, Raven shakes her head slightly, and then teleports back to Titan's Tower, to get some rest as well. The next morning, streets of Jump City. Beast Boy sighs to himself, while walking the streets of Jump City. Today was another day, that everyone was too busy for him. Robin was obsessing over Pink X, Cyborg was working on his baby the T-Car, Starfire was being her normal self and cooking something from Tamarin, and Raven had vanished early in the morning too, only she knew where. Why am I always the odd man out? Beast Boy wonders to himself before bumping into someone, both people falling back onto their assess. Oh, sorry, I wasn't paying any. Beast Boy starts to say, only to stop when he sees Kid Moth was whom he had bumped into. You both teens exclaim while pointing to the one they bumped into. You that chick who forced Robin to take you out on a date. Beast Boy says, and Kitten frowns, while glaring at the green furry titan. And you're his green friend. She states, and Beast Boy narrows his eyes onto the girl. Alright, what are you up to this time? Beast Boy demands, and Kitten crosses her arms, then gives him a look. Are you serious? She asks, and Beast Boy blinks before nodding his head. Sighing the blonde motions at her body, and Beast Boy looks to what she's wearing and blushes when he sees she's in a school uniform. Oh, then you're just getting off of school. He asks, and Kitten nods her head with a glare directed at the green-furred changeling. Sorry. But we don't normally bump into villains on the street without them being up to something. Beast Boy offers while rubbing the back of his neck, and Kitten snorts before getting up and brushing off her skirt and legs. I'm not a villain. She states flatly, and Beast Boy gives her a look. Besides, that time I wanted a date for the prom. What evil things have I done? Kitten asks indignantly, and Beast Boy is silent, contemplating this before grinning sheepishly. Sorry, again. He offers, and Kitten looks at him for a moment. Seeing as we're still on the subject, what are you doing out here? Kitten asks, and Beast Boy rubs the back of his neck nervously. It's kind of a long story. He admits, and Kitten shrugs her shoulders before making to leave. It wasn't her business after all. Say, would you like to do something? Beast Boy then asks Kitten, and she stops and looks at him strangely. You mean like a date? She asks, and Beast Boy rapidly shakes his head. No? Just do something, do something nice for knocking you down. Beast Boy offers, and Kitten rubs her chin in thought for a moment before smirking. Fine. You can buy me a milkshake. she states while smirking, and Beast Boy blinks then nods his head, somewhat regretting what he offered, but then again it wasn't like he had anything better to do, and Kitten couldn't really be all that bad, right? Tartarus HQ. Naruto was sitting down and leaning back in the sofa, wondering what he should do about the ninja, and of course Pink X. Moreover, I need to find some way of getting rid of those Konoha flunkies. The longer they stay here, the more I risk someone really getting hurt, especially with Sasuke team's temper problem lately. I swear it's gotten worse. Naruto thinks, then crosses his arms over his chest. I wonder how I could even do that. I can't summon toads into this world for some weird reason, and I don't even know how I got here, so how could I send them back to Konoha? Naruto thinks to himself, then wonders, while Raven then appears beside him. You know, Kar-chan, it's kind of weird having you come and go from your enemy's place as you please. Naruto notes with a slight smirk on his lips, and Raven rolls her eyes, before leaning into the blonde with her head resting on his shoulder. Well, if someone had his own place I wouldn't have to. Raven reminds, and Naruto scoffs, before leaning his head onto Raven's. So what were you thinking about when I came in? Raven asks the blonde, and he frowns. How to deal with the Konoha flunkies once and for all. He offers, and Raven sighs to herself. Why not just send them home? She offers, and Naruto rolls his eyes. I would do that, Kar-chan, but I don't even know how I got myself here, let alone the rest of them. He states, and Raven nods her head slowly before her eyes snap open at an idea. Well, what if I try and find a way to send them home? She offers, and Naruto blinks for a few moments. Kar-chan, how would you do that? He asks, and Raven smirks. One. I'm from another dimension as well. Raven starts, and Naruto gapes at the girl before grinning. They really had too much in common. Not only that, I sense things. And you and those ninja have a very unique energy signature. I already know how to travel between dimensions, so I'll just look for a similar energy trail in the many different dimensions till I find the one you're from. Raven offers, and Naruto looks down at his girlfriend with a slight frown. That could take a very long time. He reminds, and Raven rolls her eyes. More like days. There are a lot of world, yes, but not so many that I won't be able to pinpoint where you came from quickly, if I need to. Finding the spell needed to send them all away, that will take me some time, however. Raven offers, and Naruto chuckles before wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Thanks, Kar-chan. Once you find that, then we'll be able to send those Konoha flunkies away, and I'll be free for good, and then we can have all the time we want to do whatever. Naruto muses with a smirk, and Raven nods her head silently. Naruto, what do you think of Jinx? Raven then asks, and Naruto blinks. She's a really good friend. Why? He says, then asks, and Raven is silent for a moment before sighing and closing her eyes, sighing contentedly as she does. No reason, just felt like asking. She offers while Naruto shrugs and leans back into the sofa, both contentedly laying on the sofa together. However, a second later the familiar form of Duala, still dressed in her Riddler's daughter costume, leaned over them to look down at them both from above, with a strange look on her face. Isn't she one of those titans? Duela asks, and both Naruto and Raven glare at the clownish girl. Why? Naruto asks, and Duela flips over them, landing on the table before the sofa, and then twists around to face them with a smile on her face. You remind me of my boyfriend and me. Two of a kind, and yet from totally different worlds. Duela notes with a nod and an amused expression on her face, and Naruto rolls his eyes. And who exactly is your boyfriend? Naruto asks, and Duela blinks. Was. She states, and Raven frowns while rubbing her temples. Whatever, who was he then? She asks, and Duela grins. His was called Talon. Duela offers with a strange grin on her face, and Naruto looks to Raven, the gray-skinned girl shrugging her shoulders. Don't expect you two to know him, he hasn't shown up in this world yet. Duela then offers with another grin before rolling backwards, off the table, and onto her feet with her hands on the top of her gold cane. Giving a mock salute, the girl then walks off while whistling to herself, Raven and Naruto watching her leave them silently. That has got to be the weirdest girl I have ever had the misfortune of knowing. Raven notes, and Naruto frowns in thought for a few moments. Not me. I knew a girl who actively threatened to ravage people in their sleep. No, wait. That was only Sasuke team. Naruto offers with a shrug, and Raven gives him a look for a moment. You're right, Duela isn't that crazy. She notes, and Naruto snickers to himself, before sighing and laying his head against her once more. You're really enjoying this, aren't you? Raven suddenly asks, while half closing her eyes, and Naruto looks down at her with a smirk. Sakura hated just letting me hold her like this. Said it was annoying, and that I was too clingy or something, but I kind of like just holding my girl every once in a while. Naruto offers with a soft smile forming on his lips, and Raven raises a brow for only a second, before sighing in content, and closing her eyes with a ghost of a smile. That Sakura girl must have been even crazier than Duela as well. Back with Beast Boy. Kitten and Beast Boy are sitting down in the mall, both sipping on a milkshake, while Beast Boy scrutinizes Kitten for the millionth time. She doesn't seem like she's psychotic or anything like Robert Starr called her. Beast Boy notes as the blonde then releases her milkshake with a sigh and a smile. So Beastie, why were you out all by your lonesome? Kitten suddenly asks, and Beast Boy blinks, and then looks at her strangely for the nickname. Well, the others were off doing whatever it is that they do. Robin is pacing the floor, and even saying stuff about some chick called the Joker's daughter, pulling a prank on us, all because of this pink ex-chick. Raven is always out of the tower now, which is weird as hell for her. Starfire is usually with Raven, but today she was making some of her weird Tamaranian food, and personally Dudette, I'd rather not eat it. Beast Boy says, then shivers, and Kitten mutely nods her head, figuring that since Starfire was an alien, the food her people eat would taste odd. At the very least. So what about that big guy, Cyber or something like that, right? Kitten then asks with a raised brow before she sips her milkshake once more. Cyborg actually, and he's working on his baby, the T-car. And he doesn't like it. When I try to help him, he says that everything I touch seems to explode, fall apart, or spontaneously combust. Beast Boy offers, while lowering his head, ears drooping as he sighs, then takes a sip of his own shake. So I decided I'd walk around out of the tower. Last time my Mopai ended up being taken aboard a spaceship by a lonely alien, so I figure I should just find something to do outside the tower. Beast Boy explains, and Kitten stops her sipping to look at him strangely. You were taken on an alien spaceship? She asks incredulously, and Beast Boy nods his head. Cool, all the cool things happen to you Titans. Kitten muses with a nod of her head, and Beast Boy frowns slightly. No, it doesn't. All the really dangerous stuff happens to us. I mean, come on, who wants psychos like Slater Brother Blood, or the other baddies to come after them? Beast Boy retorts, and Kitten hums while looking upwards. True. I guess you have to take the good with the bad. Kitten notes, and Beast Boy nods his head, the blonde girl smirking towards him afterwards. But you got to admit it's cool to not have to go to school. She offers, and Beast Boy blinks then snorts. Looking like I do, that's the only thing I'm glad for. No school means no people, to constantly stare at the furry green dude. Beast Boy offers, and Kitten blinks for a moment, before rubbing her shoulder nervously. Sorry about that. She offers, and Beast Boy gives a slight smile. So how did that happen anyways? She then asks, and Beast Boy blinks. What? He asks, and Kitten smiles, not a smirk or grin, she just smiles, and Beast Boy finds it preferable to her normal devious expressions. How did you turn green, and get your powers? Kitten then says, and Beast Boy makes an O with his mouth, before sipping his shake for a moment. Well, me and my parents were over in Africa on safari. My parents were biochemists looking for some rare plants and such. But while we were there, a green monkey bit me, and I caught a really deadly virus. Beast Boy starts to explain before taking another sip of his shake, and Kitten blinks in surprise. You know, I was actually expecting you to make this story sound like your parents were Tomb Raiders or something silly, and you got cursed. This seems more believable already. Kitten offers, and Beast Boy rolls his eyes in response. Dude, my parents weren't anything like that, that's my friend Sarah. Her and her father are archaeologists. Beast Boy offers, and Kitten looked at the green teen, quite obviously surprised by that little tidbit. Anyways, my parents were biochemists, see, so they cooked up this formula to cure me of the virus I caught. It worked, but, obviously, there were some unforeseen side effects. Beast Boy offers, before sipping his shake once more, shaking it then tossing it over his shoulder. So why aren't you living with your parents then? Kitten asks, and Beast Boy shifts uncomfortably in his seat. It's something I'd rather not talk about. He says softly while looking down, and Kitten decides to change the subject. So anyways, you were telling me about how lonely you were before I asked about your powers. Kitten reminds, and Beast Boy nods his head, perking up slightly at the change in subject. My dad is worse than your friends. She then says, and Beast Boy blinks, and then looks at the girl strangely. Kill him off? He asks, and Kitten nods her head. The same guy who forced Robin to take you to a prom, ignores you. He asks, and Kitten nods her head, while sipping and finishing her shake as well. Yep. He's always in his basement plotting world domination. Last time I saw him out of the basement was, about a year ago, when he made Robin take me to the prom. Kitten offers with a frown on her face, and Beast Boy grimaces in response. Yikes. I guess he is pretty bad. Beast Boy says, and Kitten nods her head. Yep. But I still love the big mutated Mothman. Kitten then says, and Beast Boy smiles slightly. Can't help but love parents, even when they are hard-assed. He offers, and Kitten giggles before nodding her head in agreement. Yeah. Daddy may be a bit of a workaholic, but at least he didn't abandon me like Mom did. Kitten replies, then stops and looks wide-eyed at Beast Boy, who is gaping at her. Your mom abandoned you? He asks in shock, and Kitten sighs before laying her cheek against her left hand. I didn't always look like this, you know. She states, then motions to her body. Daddy's genes made me more fear-looking. Mom thought I was going to be part bug or something, and left us both because of it. Kitten explains, and Beast Boy raises a brow. Then how come you don't look anything like him now? The green teen asks, and Kitten looks around before opening her mouth to show both the top and bottom rows of her teeth were actually sharp fangs. Dude, he says in shock, and Kitten rolls her eyes before sighing tiredly. Yeah, I get that a lot, but watch this. Kitten offers, then says while opening her mouth once more, Beast Boy wondering what he's supposed to be looking for before his eyes whiten in shock, as her teeth seem to smooth out before his eyes, and she grins, showing perfectly normal teeth. Neat, huh? She offers and Beast Boy looks at the girl in shock. You're a shapeshifter, he asks, and Kitten nods her head with a smirk. Dude, that is like so cool. What all can you turn into? I mean, I can change into extinct, alien, and other kinds of animals, but... Beast Boy starts to ramble on, but Kitten moves to place a hand over the green-haired boy's mouth. First of all, my powers are limited to changing into girls. I can't turn into boys, I can't turn into animals, and I can't turn into non-living objects. I can turn into semi-human things like catgirls and such, but nothing too extravagant. Kitten offers and Beast Boy blinks while Kitten then removes her hand from his mouth. So how did you get that power? I heard it's supposed to be rare to get shape-shifting meta-human powers. Beast Boy notes and Kitten snorts. I don't know, probably a genetic fluke or something, Beastie. All I know is if it wasn't for my powers, I'd probably be ridiculed at school regularly for my real looks. Kitten offers offhandedly, and Beast Boy frowns. That can't be good for you. He notes and Kitten sighs. No, probably not. All my boyfriends become total dicks after they find out as well. She admits, then growls out, and Beast Boy raises a brow. They want me to turn into other girls, like supermodels, old girlfriends, anyone they want, like I shouldn't really even care. She says with gritted teeth, and Beast Boy grimaces. He knew that story very well. They don't get that it's like they're saying you're not good enough, that you're just second best by wanting you to change. And seeing as your normal form isn't your real form, that would make you third best, right? Beast Boy offers and Kitten blinks before nodding her head slowly. You're more insightful than I thought. She offers and Beast Boy grins once more. Yeah. Well, I know what that's like. I know what it's like to be second best to my other forms. It isn't really fun. I mean, I like protecting my friends and all. But when I have to change just to keep up, it's like I start to lose all worth. Like I'm just Beast Boy. I'm not Garfield Logan anymore. I'm just a changeling. Beast Boy admits softly, and Kitten smiles slightly. Is that why I've heard you always want a moped? So you won't have to change? She asks, and though she doesn't say it, her thoughts add on to her statement. So you won't have to be second best. At her statement, Beast Boy slowly nods his head to the blonde, who then rubs her chin for a moment. Alright, Beastie. Since you've been so honest and nice, I'm taking you on a date. Kitten then says, and Beast Boy blinks to himself before gaping at her. Wah? He asks intelligently, and Kitten snickers to herself. I said I'm taking you on a date. She reiterates, and Beast Boy blinks rapidly. Why? I mean, aren't you and Fang like together or something? He asks, and Kitten snorts. Fang wanted me to turn into a spider-human hybrid like him. Kitten states flatly with a deep scowl on her face, and Beast Boy grimaces. Oh? Beast Boy says, and then shifts uncomfortably in the awkward silence. What would we do? Beast Boy asks, and Kitten frowns in thought for a moment. Any movies you want to see? She asks, and Beast Boy rubs his head before his eyes suddenly light up. I kind of wanted to see Wicked Scary, The Resurrection. He offers with a weak grin, and Kitten smirks. You do know this is the first Wicked Scary to come out since the third one came out 10 years ago, right? Kitten asks, and Beast Boy looks at her in shock. I like horror flicks. My dad is a mutant version of the Mothman, and the Mothman Prophecies is one of my all-time favorite movies. Kitten offers with a smirk, and Beast Boy grins widely. Cool. Then where do we meet and when? Beast Boy asks, and Kitten rubs her chin for a moment before snapping her fingers. How about tonight at 6 o'clock, and we can meet up here? She offers, and Beast Boy nods his head with a grin. I'll be there, I mean here. He says with a thumb up, and Kitten snickers to herself before winking at the green teen. Good. Then don't be late, Beastie. She says before sauntering off, while Beast Boy smiles, then blinks to himself. What do I wear on a date? And for that matter, what do I act like on a date? Beast Boy wonders to himself, before starting to mentally freak out. Young love. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want the next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. And also check out the other videos that I have created, and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.